Okay. Oh, strap in, ladies and gentlemen. Strap in. It's gonna be a long video. Alright, you hooligans. I did say we were gonna talk about this. And we're gonna talk about it. I think I look respectable enough to talk about this topic. For my opinion to matter. I'm kidding, it doesn't matter. Your opinion doesn't matter, my opinion doesn't matter. The only opinion that matters is Chase Elliott's opinion. Because he's gonna run the sport for the next 10 years. Alright, but in all seriousness, today, guys, hopefully you're having a good day. If you like the video before even ever watching it, and you decide to go in the comments in the first 30 seconds, then please hit the like button on the video, because I can already tell you enjoy it. And subscribe if you're new, and already comment down below, only a minute into this video. Leave whatever comment you want. I don't really care. I'm kidding, I do care. I care about the comment, but not if you leave it a minute into the video, because then it becomes like, well, what are you guys trying to say? Okay, let's get into it. It's gonna be a long one. Get your popcorn, get your soda, get your stromboli, get your pizza, get your peanuts. Get into your car, go to the drive-in theater with the car theater thingy that we do now with the virus thing. Watch the movie, watch Cars 3, come back, and then watch a video, because it's gonna be a long video. Today, we are talking about the playoff format. Now, there are certain things I will not be talking about. If you go to my, I think it was the Martinsville post-race review, which is titled, like, Destroy the Playoff Format. In that video, I talk about the comparison to American football and American basketball and American sports in general. I'm not going to be talking about that comparison today because I already talked about it. So if you want to go see why I explained the whole Super Bowl thing, like if you say, oh, the Patriots said blah, blah, and they lost in the Super Bowl, that stupid comparison. If you want to go see it and me explain all of that and why you're completely wrong in comparing NASCAR to the Super Bowl, then go check out the Destroy the Playoff Format video. Somewhere towards the middle to later end is where I talk about that, and that is it. So again, like I said, I'm not bringing that up again. It's over. I already talked about it. Never make that comparison. So today we're going to talk about the playoff format, what we currently have, what we've had in the past, and what we should have in the future. We're going to touch on all three. So yes, I'll be giving you the problem, which is the playoff format, and I'll be giving you the solution, which you will have to stick around and wait to find out. And obviously the solution can be tinkered. I'm not saying do it exactly the way I want to do it. There are certain aspects that are very negotiable, and then there are certain aspects that are not negotiable whatsoever. So, to start, let's talk about the current playoff format. The current playoff format consists of playoff points, a 10-race playoff chase in a way, elimination rounds, cutoff races, and a four-person championship race at Phoenix. Used to be at Homestead, but it's at Phoenix, okay? The major difference between this playoff format and formats in the past that are similar are the playoff points. That's the main difference, which have, in my opinion, improved this current playoff format, because if you remember the 2014 to I think it was 2016 playoff format, that was the reset the points no matter what you did in the first 26 races. That was stupid. So luckily we got rid of that. Stage racing has obviously come in the last few years to where stage racing and the playoff format in this current era work together well, because if you win a stage, you get one playoff point. So yes, what you do throughout the season in a way, in a slight kind of way, does matter what you do at the end, because for example, like Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin, they dominated throughout most of the season and they built up such a gap, but that still doesn't guarantee you really a fair shot at the championship, but at least you can make it to the round of 8 pretty cleanly. In this playoff format, like I said, you have elimination races, cutoff races. The schedule matters a lot here, which NASCAR has done a fantastic job with. I actually very much love the final 10 races, except for Texas. Texas is a terrible racetrack. But other than that, the final 10 races of the schedule here is really good. And you have cutoff races at Bristol, the Charlotte Roval, and Martinsville, which is also really good. Before the Charlotte Roval, we had the cutoff race, sometimes, I think it was 1 year at Talladega. I thought that was really cool too, because that gives you an entertainment factor where if you were not, you didn't solidify yourself before Talladega, then you got to worry about Talladega. And in my opinion, that's not unfair. That's just, hey, you didn't do enough in the first 2 rounds, so now you got to go to Talladega. I always loved it. I kind of wish that would come back, for Talladega to be the cutoff race. But, I understand why people got mad, because then it got a little bit too crazy. But in my sense, it doesn't really matter to me if Talladega is the last race or the middle race. I think it's just more entertaining to promote it as a playoff race, a cutoff race, but that's just my opinion. The biggest factor with this playoff format and the biggest, let's say, debating point that I have talked about and many people have talked about is, one, the balance between entertainment and fairness, just marketing the sport in general with fights and everything and drama and just craziness, and then the sport itself, which is you have to be fast and build great race cars and race to win, and entertainment and fairness, integrity. This is the balance, okay? You can't go too far on one side and you can't go too far on the other side. You have to find the balance, okay? In 2014 to 2016, entertainment was all the way up here and balance and fairness was all the way down here, because when it got to the final 10 races of the season, you had 3-week seasons. It did not matter what you did after the first set of elimination races, because then everything gets reset again and you're all in a level playing field. That's not fair, and I'm pretty sure NASCAR saw that, so we were all the way at this situation and we brought it down a little bit. So now we're like, actually no, wait, which one? All right, no, this is entertainment, guys. So now we're all the way over here. We're both out of the screen, and now we're kind of like here, like still more entertainment, but the balance is, the entertainment, the fairness it's creeping, okay? But we still have something called a championship race, and in good old DUI Brian Francis words, that is your Game 7 entertainment. All right, so NASCAR wanted to create Game 7 moments. The championship race is a Game 7. I already just want to throw up while thinking about this. Okay, so the Game 7 moment in this playoff format, the balance, the fairness drops to the ground, and the entertainment goes to the sky. So that's the seesaw battle we're at for that. And here's where I give you guys my opinion. Now, we're not going to be looking at past champions and was it fair this person won. I think we can all assume, let's say 2016 was Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson necessarily didn't really deserve that championship, but he got to the final championship race. Edwards and Logano wrecked out, and there goes Jimmy Johnson. He just carries his way through, wins the championship. So in fairness and in integrity, that wasn't really ideal. But here's the argument to that. If you get to the championship 4, do you technically already deserve to win the championship if you've made it there? You know what I mean? That's one argument. Because getting to the championship 4 is very hard. So if you get there, then hey, it doesn't really matter who wins the championship, because getting there is an achievement in itself. And actually winning the championship, there's a lot of other factors that you sometimes can't control. What I mean by that is when you determine a championship in a single race, if you take the championship factor out of it, how do you win a single race? Winning a single race can be won in many different ways. It could come down to fuel strategy. It could come down to a speeding penalty. It could come down to the picking of a lane on a restart and someone spinning their tires and stacking up that restart, right? It can come down to someone blowing a tire in front of you. It could come down to someone wrecking with 3 to go while you have a 3-second lead, and then the caution comes out. And then you have to decide whether to come down pit road or not. You don't come down pit road, and then the final 2 laps you get swamped and you lose the championship that way. It can come down to all these different things that you simply just cannot control as a driver or a team. It just is what it is. It's what happens in racing. Luck is a big thing in racing. So when then you decide to go ahead and crown a champion in a single race, you then realize, okay, that's a stupid idea. Because you simply cannot crown a season champion based off of one race. It doesn't matter even if you got what you did previously gets to that point, what you did in the season got you to the championship 4. There's a lot of different things that can happen in that one race where it's like, is this really how we determine a champion? And it hasn't happened yet, and I hopefully it never happens, but there is a very possible scenario where all 4 could wreck. 2 of them could wreck early in the race, and then you have a 1v1 showdown. And it's just, it becomes a point where, listen, determining a champion for a season should never come down to one race. And so that is my biggest problem with this current playoff format, and ever since 2014. Crowning a champion from one race, no matter how you got there, just one race, doesn't matter what you did before, if you get to that thing, then you have to win the you win the championship by defeating your 3 other rivals in one race is stupid. That's not sports. I'm not talking about the eliminations. I'm not talking about resetting the and having a playoff format. I am specifically talking about a championship race. It's a stupid idea. And you're going to see this come more and more. I said it was stupid back in 2014. I've been saying it this whole time. It's 6 years later, and it's still a stupid idea. You're going to see as the years go on, if we keep this playoff format, your Game 7 moment will get stale, boring, and repetitive. Now, that's just something that happens over time when you obviously have the same format, but you're not going to get Game 7 moments. And it's not worth it for the entertainment-wise when you realize, okay, there's a lot of really bad things that can happen here, and are we truly crowning a champion the right way when there should be better options to do so? One of the biggest reasons for this format from a lot of people is you have the NFL comparison, like, oh, it's sports, you have to be clutch at the right time, yada, yada, yada. Problem is, guys, you're racing with 3 other drivers in the championship race, but there's also 36 other drivers on the field or the track, and they can play a really big part in how the championship is decided. They're not just bystanders. Those other drivers are also trying to do well for their own team and for themselves and to win the race. You don't want a championship being decided by the other 36 guys that can easily dictate the outcome of a race. If one stays out, if one wrecks another one, yada, yada, yada. There's just too many variables that can happen in one single race that you say, okay, this guy is a deserving champion. From a fairness standpoint and from a sport and integrity standpoint, it just makes no sense. From an entertainment standpoint, you could say it provides you the highest value of entertainment because, number one, this championship is never determined before the final race of the season. So that's one argument a lot of fans make. And number two, craziness can happen. Drama, insanity, like, you just don't know what could happen in that final race. And so you always get entertainment, technically, in a way. That was the biggest complaint NASCAR fans had about the old formats, which we will talk about. Like I said, it's going to be a long video, guys. So grab your popcorn. They didn't want a championship being determined too early because then they thought the end of the season didn't matter. So we flipped the switch completely, and now we've gotten to the point where the championship always gets decided on the final race. And the beginning part of the season doesn't matter. You see the balance. Do you see what I'm talking about? We have to balance the seesaw. We can't flip, okay? We can't keep going all the way back and forth. So, to balance the seesaw, we have talked about the current playoff format, and I've given you my opinion. It's stupid, specifically the championship race. Not the other stuff, the championship race. Never decide a champion in one race. Let's go all the way to the other side. 2003, and obviously pre-2003 and pre-2004, the season-long championship format. Now, the hardcore, die-hard, old-school NASCAR fans will scream out and say, bring back the season-long format, and I will tell you, the seesaw. Remember the seesaw. You can't go too far on either side. If you bring back the season-long format, entertainment goes down here, and fairness goes pretty much all the way up, okay? So, again, we don't have the balance. Now, the reason why a season-long championship format would not work in the modern day, guys, you have to remember, modern day, is just simply because the NASCAR season is too long, okay? So you have 36 races in a season, you have the stage points and stage racing and everything. Yes, it would make the entire season matter to an extent because you have to be consistent the whole way around, but it wouldn't be very entertaining. Specifically, if someone won one race all season and still won the championship, that's why they changed it when Matt Kenseth did it in 2003. Or someone dominates from the beginning of the season and clinches the championship with 3 races to go, and the final 3 races don't matter, right? Something you're seeing with Lewis Hamilton in Formula 1 right now, but Formula 1's a different thing because, you know, the cars matter a lot, and Mercedes is always to dominate, so... But also, Formula 1, their season's a lot shorter, so you can understand why they do it. And Formula 1 has a different fan base. Formula 1 decided, hey, let's try to make the season matter a little bit longer with a double points thing in 2016, or was it 2016? With Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. And then all the fans literally said it was the stupidest idea they've ever had, and they scrapped it after 1 year. Because because Formula 1's very different, guys, from American racing. They want their fairness and their integrity. Season-long format ain't changing in Formula One. It's always going to be there. But NASCAR's a little bit different. NASCAR, in my personal opinion, should never go back to the season-long format unless some really crazy bad thing happened and they can't do 36 races a season. They had to cut it way down. Then you could bring it back. 36 races, never bring it back. Season-long, I'm sorry, guys, for the diehard fan. It's not going to happen. It's just not entertaining enough. There's also, like, I can't be hypocritical. There's a lot of things that could happen in the championship race format that could also happen in also another bad way with the season-long format. For example, someone not winning a race and winning the championship, very possible. Someone having like a Ryan Newman season in his early days where he had like a whole bunch of wins and a lot of DNFs. Then you start complaining about, well, that guy won like 9 races, but he didn't win the championship because he wasn't consistent. So there'd still be complaints on that part. It's not happening. So now we head to the very popular format. Pre-2006, 2004 to 2006. This is the original Chase for the Cup. Now, the original Chase for the Cup consisted of a 10-race chase where you had the drivers seeded based off of regular season standings. So where you finished in the regular season would determine your seeding heading into the final 10 races. There was 10 drivers in this, not 16 like it is now. There was 10 drivers in this, and then they were seeded 5 points apart. Now, this also did use the old points format, so if you wanted to translate this to modern day, it would be stage points and everything gets gathered up. You then add, you take the 10 top season standing people, right? Season standing drivers. And then you separate them by a certain points that you want to pick, whether it be 3 points, 5 points, 6 points, 7 points, whatever you want to do. And then you put them in a 10-race chase, and whoever has the most points at the end of the 10 races wins the championship. Wins did not really matter in this format because you did not get any bonus points for winning. It was just you had to, it was all still consistency, but then they crunched it up in the final 10 races, then you go on your way. Now, we did have the 2004 battle, the first year, where we had 4 drivers able to win a championship that year. And honestly, every year of the chase was pretty entertaining, but NASCAR fans had to get used to it. There was still a lot of complaining. There wasn't like social media, but there was a lot of complaining because this was not the typical NASCAR. People were still wedded to their, season-long format. And then we had the upgraded version of the 2004 chase, which is 2007 to 2010, I think it is, where you still had 10 people, but winning actually mattered now. So if you won a certain amount of races, you got a certain amount of bonus points, and that would carry on into the championship races as well, and all that stuff. And it was still very much the same, though. You get to the end of the season, everyone bunches up, and then you have the 10-race championship chase. Now, if you on the seesaw, where do you take the 10-race chase? It is entertaining because, this is the one, right? I still never know which hand I'm using for entertainment and fairness, but let's just say this one's entertainment, right? So when you go from the modern day or the old school season-long format to the 10-race chase, entertainment goes from down all the way here to about here. It's about maybe a little bit lower. Let's say like low end, average to mid, somewhere around here, right? Depending on how the season plays out. And fairness went all the way up here and dropped a little bit. So we got like right here, okay? So it wasn't completely balanced, but it was getting closer, okay? A lot of people thought it was just a gimmick. So you have to remember the opinions back then. It was a gimmick. No one wanted it. Jimmy Johnson wins 5 straight. Oh, this format's made for Jimmy Johnson to win. Yada, yada, yada. I hate Jimmy Johnson, okay? So this format was not liked at the time. No matter what anyone tells you right now, this format was not liked at the time. No way whatsoever. Everyone hated it. They're like, this is not fair. This is not how you determine a champion. Yada, yada, yada. So just remember, recency bias is a thing. So, you could look back 10 years from now and think that was a great thing, but at the time, it wasn't really. A lot of people complained. But in fairness to entertainment levels, guys, in my opinion, it was getting closer. And then we had another version of the chase format that introduced wild cards, and you still had the bonus points for wins. So it expanded from 10 to 12. You had 2 wild cards get in based on if you could win a race in the regular season. And so then you started to see the contention of playoff drivers start to grow before you got to 2014, where it became 16 drivers. But before 2014, you still always had the 10-race chase. So that is in my opinion, the closest we ever got to entertainment and fairness. We still had an incredible championship battle in 2011, but you could also see some of the problems people would have in modern day. Tony Stewart did not win a race in 2011 before the chase started. He then won 5 in the final 10 races. Him and Carl Edwards dueled it out, finished on the same exact points at Homestead. They were running 1-2, and it essentially became a championship race. Now, I bring that up because that's a very special scenario that's not expected. And the fact that that happened is insanely unlikely. But that's why that was special, because it wasn't expected. In a way, in 2011, you had a championship race with 2 drivers, a 1v1 showdown, you can mark it that way. But it wasn't designed specifically to happen like that. Do you understand? So we never had a set-in-stone championship race. But in a way, we had a championship race. Because after those final 9 races, when we got to the final race, Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart were pretty much tied on points. And they had to battle it out to win at Homestead and win the championship. So, in a way, that's your Game 7 moment. That's important to say, because I'm going to come back to that in a second. When you have a championship race every single year, the specialty, the aura, it doesn't come off. It's just, first of all, it's not fair. And second of all, it's just a stupid idea. You can't determine a champion in one race. But if a champion's determined in one race because the previous 9 races they were so close, then that's special. That's a Game 7 moment because it wasn't manufactured that way. You had a 10-race chase. All right, listen, battle it out 10 races, and Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards slugged it out, right? They got to the final race, and it still wasn't decided, even though after all they did in the first 9 races, and they eliminated everyone else. But Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards still had to battle it out. That one race, it wasn't designed to set up like that, but it did. And that's your Game 7 moment. In the chase, you always had certain storylines. Jimmy Johnson won multiple times, but he had like a guy he had to compete with. 2007, it was the battle between Jimmy and Jeff, right? 2010, it was the battle between Denny and Jimmy. 2009, it was the battle between Mark Martin and Jimmy Johnson. 2012, it was Brad Keselowski dethroning Jimmy Johnson pretty much because everyone thought Jimmy was going to win number 6 at that time, but no, Brad Keselowski came out. They had incredible duels, specifically the one at Texas I remember that year, and they were close in the points the whole year, and they got to the end, and that felt like a true showdown, and Brad Keselowski pulled it out. Why I bring that up is because, in a way, you still had the storylines that brought you the entertainment, but you still had the fairness as well. You always have, in my opinion, the best thing about NASCAR when it comes to determining a champion is the natural storylines that can happen when you're trying to determine a champion. And one thing I do miss is when drivers knew they had a certain rival the whole season, and they knew they had to beat that guy no matter what. In a way, we had that with Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick. But because of the system, it didn't come out like that. Denny Hamlin has to beat 3 other guys, not named Kevin Harvick, because Kevin Harvick doesn't make it to the championship 4. But even in the playoffs, you have to realize, like, okay, I know this guy's going to be a problem or this guy can come through. Like Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott won the championship 2 days ago. He would have won it in the 2004 format. He would have won it in the 2007 format. He would have won it in the 2012 format. He would have won it in the 2014 format. He would have won it in every format except the season-long championship. The dilemma is, how do you crown that champion? Because if Chase Elliott doesn't win in a single race, if he does not beat Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Denny Hamlin, that doesn't happen. But in the final 10 races, you could see Chase Elliott was consistent enough, won enough to be determined a champion in a pretty fair way. My worry is when that doesn't happen, and it's happened a few times already post 2014. So, now the solution. How do we determine the fairest champion while being as entertaining as possible and still having unpredictability? It's a hard solution. Not everyone will agree with it. You will never get everyone to agree on a certain way to decide a champion. It just isn't going to happen. It's like politics in NASCAR in a weird way. Like there's multiple sides and you're never going to agree and you're divided and everything. So here's the non-negotiable that I have, guys, in the solution. The number 1 non-negotiable is you cannot determine a champion in one race. That should never, ever, 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 ever happen. Never. Never, ever, 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 ever. That has to go. You should never determine a champion based off of one race. You have 4 drivers, 25% chance everyone wins. There's too many things that can happen that could just not get in that race and winning it. You cannot determine a fair champion. It's legitimately impossible. That has to go. However, the other non-negotiable, you can't go back to a season-long format. Season-long format, it would just be too boring. I know it's fair. It would just be too boring. So there's the 2 non-negotiables. Do you realize what I just did? I eliminated the 2 things that completely just eliminate the seesaw. Absolutely 100%. Next thing you know, the seesaw is turning into the Eiffel Tower because it's so vertical one way or another. Those 2 things are gone. So one that goes all the way to entertaining and the one that goes all the way for the fairness, gone. All right? Non-negotiables, we are not having that stuff. So how do we get to the fairness and the entertainment and balance that seesaw with what we have now? This is where I bring in stage racing. Stage racing is not going away. I actually do like stage racing. I sometimes struggle with it. Like, this is still really weird, but stage racing is a good thing, guys. It does, in a way, make the race kind of matter in a sense because you can earn points, you can earn playoff points, yada, yada, yada. So stage racing is here to stay. I also want shorter races in the future, but that's a way different story for another day. Let's keep going. So how do you get a championship format with playoff points and stage points integrated into it without having a championship race? And this is where you have to think back in your little mind. You have to think, okay, let's see. Number 1, a part of my solution will be getting every single driver in a meeting room and actually asking for their opinions. I know that's kind of crazy, but if I ran NASCAR, if I was on the executive board, I would bring in every single driver and I would take notes of every single person and what they have to say and determine and take their opinion into account, because the drivers know a lot about the sport that they are in. So please ask them. Number 2, I would make sure that the first 26 races of the season still do matter. So playoff points, here to stay. 1 playoff point for winning a stage, here to stay. 5 playoff points for winning a race, here to stay. That is all staying. That would not get eliminated, changed, nothing. So it wouldn't be too drastic of a change for the fans to understand. Nothing would change in the first 26 races of the season. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It would be exactly the same. Same stage racing, same playoff points, same everything. Everyone understand? Good? You still got to compete. You still got to win. If you don't win in the first 26 races, you're putting yourself in a very deep hole. You saw it with Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch could not get out of it. You know, no matter how good he could do in his final 10 races, he couldn't get out of it. It was too deep of a hole to get out of. Now, here's the first major change. We're going to look back at 2004, okay? So right now, we have 16 drivers who make the playoffs. I'm asking you right now as a fan, do you ever care about the 16 drivers that really make it in? Do you? Like, when you're in the regular season, do you really care who makes it in? Because it's 16 drivers. With the current modern day of NASCAR, you don't have as many competitive race teams that can win races as you had back in the day, where you could have like a lot of different winners, right? In terms of raw speed, you don't have as many as that. So, getting into the playoffs should be very hard, which is why I say we go back to 10 drivers. You eliminate 6 out of there. Go back to 10 drivers. That way, when you are watching the regular season, you're thinking to yourself, wow, we have the 4 JGR guys, the 4 Hendrick guys, the 3 Penske guys, the 4 guys at SHR. They all can't make it, though. We have the 2 guys at Ganassi. We have Wood Brothers. We have alliances like the new Michael Jordan racing team and Bubba Wallace. But not everyone can make the playoffs. Wow. At least half of them are going to miss, right? That's what makes the regular season exciting. It shouldn't be a punch your way into the ticket for the playoffs. That's not how it should be. Win a race and you're in. No. Top 10 drivers in points have to get in the playoffs. I'm sorry if you, what's your name? I'm sorry if Starcom Racing wins the Coke 0400 at Daytona, right? I understand you won that race, but you shouldn't. Do you really deserve to be in the playoffs for that? Like, really? Like, you won a race, fantastic, but you finished 30th every week. Like, we're not going to give you the pass, okay? That's not happening. You have to show a level of consistency, but you also do have to win races. So, if you are in the top 10 in points, in my opinion, you're going to have won a race by then to be top 10 in points, because, and here's the reason why I say that, stage racing. Stage racing matters here. If you don't win a race, most likely you don't have the speed to win a race. If you don't have the speed to win a race, you're not going to be finishing high in the stage racing. If you don't finish high in the stage racing, you're not going to be that high in the actual points. Do you understand what I mean? You can't think like this is pre-stage racing, where you could run in the back all day, get a good finish, and then somehow consistency with the finishes get your way to the playoffs. No, you have to run well. You have to run well to get points. And if you run well to get points, you most likely are going to win. Hence, top 10 in points. It doesn't matter what their win total is, because I am very confident the top 10 in points will have wins. So top 10 in points, make the playoffs. If you're not in the top 10 in points, you don't make the playoffs. This brings back multiple things. Number one, you have to watch the playoffs or the point standings throughout the regular season. I can promise you right now, I do not check the regular season point standings. No one checks the regular season point standings. You literally just see, oh, did this guy win a race? How many playoff points does this guy have? You never check how many points they've actually, have in a season. It doesn't happen. It's just like, it's too confusing. This guy won 60 points here. There. No one cares. No one cares. You don't see regular season. You know, when NBC would play that theme and be like, and you would see like, oh, Sterling Martin leads the points. And then Jeff Gordon second, and Jimmy Johnson. Dude, that doesn't happen nowadays. It's just like, oh, this guy has a win, this guy has a win, this guy has a win, this guy has a win. All right, that guy's in. Okay, and then, all right, we have these guys over here. None of these guys can win a championship. Yeah, Clint Boyer is definitely not winning it. Okay, Jimmy Johnson, he hasn't won in 3 years. William Byron, he can't win. No. So you just end up not caring. You just end up not caring about who makes it into that 16th spot, because they don't have a chance. They're not fast enough. They're just like, oh, I'm going to get in the playoffs, and then I'm just going to do nothing in there. Congratulations. With 10 drivers, you can still have a 10th place guy. The 10th place guy could be like an underdog. He can still win the championship. Oh, he may won a race or two, right? He's fast enough. He can win a championship. The 16th place guy is like, well, I'm Austin Dillon. I won at Daytona, or I won something, right? But I usually don't have the speed. I'm probably not going to be able to do much against the top guys who have a lot of playoff points, right? Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. So in my opinion, that sacrifice is worth it. Eliminating a lot of drivers, 6 more drivers, than what we have now, makes the regular season matter more without hurting the playoffs. Just because, in my opinion, in modern day NASCAR, 16th can't win a championship. I'm sorry. It just, the way it is, it's just not going to happen. So that fight for the top 10 should be very important. That's a big thing. It's a subconscious thing. You don't think about like, oh, I don't want to determine the champion, but to actually get there has to matter. So it makes you as a fan care more, and it makes the drivers care more as well in the regular season. So entertainment, it goes up because it's harder to get in the playoffs. So entertainment-wise, the first 26 races, it's up. You can't argue that. It's up. And the fairness, well, you still got to make the playoffs, right? So that's still there too. You have to make the playoffs. Being good at the right time, make the playoffs. Be consistent throughout the whole season. Run well. You will make the playoffs. And the reason why that's possible is because of stage points, guys. Stage points is very big here. If you run well and you finish in the top 10 a lot throughout the stages, throughout the season, you will make the playoffs. Congratulations. And remember, winning a race still matters because you still have playoff points. Those aren't going away. So yes, you have to be consistent enough to make the top 10. You still got to win, because if you don't win, you're not going to have playoff points. See? It matters. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so when we get to the 10 races, now what? This is where it becomes very debatable to me. I think for me, the non-negotiables are what I just said, with the 10 drivers in and not having the championship race. That has to be a must. From that point on, I'm very open to what NASCAR and you guys as fans wants to do. Eliminations or no eliminations. Certain brackets of eliminations, rounds or no rounds, or I don't really have a preference here. I just want to make sure that getting into the playoffs is hard and entertaining, and deciding at the end of it is not based off one race. In that little middle portion, I think we can have a lot of debate and balance in terms of what we want to do here. I personally like the elimination style without having a championship race. I just don't know how it would work yet. This is where I would need a lot of you guys to pitch in. Because with 10 drivers, you don't have the clear kind of elimination races stuff. But then again, do you really want to eliminate someone 3 races in if they made it in the top 10? Do you know what I mean? So, but in another way, you have to be clutch enough so like you can't just, not compete enough in the final 10 in the first 3 weeks of the final 10. Like if you have 2 DNFs in the first 2 races, that should be a really costly mistake, and you should probably get eliminated for that. I also do like the win and you're into the next round aspect of the playoffs. So I don't necessarily want to get rid of that either. So again, like I said, guys, this is where it becomes very debatable. So, in my opinion, I would keep eliminations and I would keep winning you're into the next round. That way, if you make the playoffs and you have a bad race or you're just really low on points, you still have a chance. You have to win one race, right? You still have that chance to advance your way to the next round. I like that. Obviously, the top guys will have a big buffer because of the playoff points. So you're still going to have that, and then points are still going to matter. And then for the bottom guys, you still have that wish. If I win that race, I can get in. And if you're the top guys, if you win the race, you don't have to worry about points. So then, if you keep those two aspects of it, how do we break up that the rest of it, right? So in my opinion, I would want a elimination after 3 races, down to 8 drivers or 7 drivers. Like, what do we do there, right? How do we break it down? And then after another 3 races, what do we do there? Do we break it down to 4 drivers, 5 drivers? And then in my opinion, the final 4 races of the season should just be all out points and wins. Whoever wins the championship that way, deserves it. Playoff points carry through each round, but it's going to be close enough to where no one's going to run away with it. Do you know what I mean? So if you get to the final race, in the final 4 races, and someone's already won the championship, you can't take that away from them. Like, we're literally restarting the points again after with only 4 races left. If Kevin Harvick won 3 of the final 4 races and had over a 60-point gap on second place heading into the final race, after we reset the points after the second elimination, he deserves it. You can't take that away from him. But likely, that's not going to happen. Most likely, in those final 4 races, with however many drivers we have, whether it be 5, whether it be 6, whether it be 4, you're most likely it's going to be close, okay? And at that point, winning races, you could debate, do we give more bonus points in this aspect of the season for winning a race? Instead of 5, should we give 15? So now if you win a race, you get 15 bonus points. And the total points accumulated at the end of these 4 races towards the end wins the championship. It's like a mini chase within the playoffs. But getting to that mini chase is already hard enough to do. And then you have everyone a fair, legitimate shot based off what you did previously and based off what you do now. You have a legitimate and fair shot at winning the championship. And I would agree with extending or increasing the points for winning a race. Because if you win a race towards the final 4 races of the season, that's the clutch factor we have already, right? You gotta be good at the right time. Well, if you're good at the right time, we're gonna give you a ton of bonus points, which means if you are already down 30 playoff points or 20 playoff points to someone who won 9 races in a season like Kevin Harvick, you can make that up, but you gotta win the race. If you win the race, that gap, it's gone. And now it becomes Kevin Harvick's looking over you like, oh man, crap, I really gotta perform at the right time, right? That's the clutch factor. Do you understand? But I'm not saying this has to happen. I'm saying in my personal opinion, that's what I would do. But I'm very open to suggestions. Like, what do you want to do in those final 10 races? Like I said, my non-negotiables. No championship race. And you have to make the playoffs 10 drivers to get in. Those are the 2 non-negotiables. Keep the playoff points. Keep the stage points. That's also non-negotiable. You have to keep those 2 as well. When you get to the 10 races, it becomes very negotiable there. Do you want eliminations? Do you not? What do you want? Do you want cutoffs? Do you want 5 races and then a cutoff and then the final 5 races? Do you still want 3 rounds? However you want to do that, I'm very open to ideas and I'm very open to what you guys would want to hear. But in my opinion, when we look back at the seesaw, if you have eliminations and you have the fairness and you have a final 4 race little chase to get to the end after eliminating a few guys with, let's say, 5 or 4 drivers somewhere around there, that's as entertaining as you could get without sacrificing the fairness. Because in my opinion, you still have to be good at the right time if we increase the bonus points. But it doesn't get determined in one race. That will never happen. So you still control your own destiny, you know? You still control your own destiny. You don't technically have a 25% chance in one race. No. Over the course of 4 races, things even out, right? Based on what you do as a team, it evens out. Bad luck might happen here or there, but in that span of time, you can create your own luck and you can become a champion. That is a really long video. So guys, I've addressed the problem. I've addressed the solution. Now it's your turn. Do you agree with me or not? Because that's my playoff format. That's ideally what I would want, to keep the entertainment and bring back the fairness and not have to deal with this stupid, nonsensical one race championship format where you can have a caution and a green, white, checkered, and fresh tire and all this nonsense. No. This is a motorsport. We cannot have that. But you can still have entertainment. And I've thought about this long and hard. And if I could talk to someone of importance, I'm telling you, listen, it's not that drastic of a change. It really isn't. You're keeping stage points. You're keeping the playoffs. You're keeping playoff points. You're keeping eliminations. You're just tweaking certain things and getting rid of a stupid championship race. Like, you're not really changing a lot. And I think it would go a long way in terms of just understanding the fan base and trying to make everyone happy. Will everyone be happy? No, obviously not. But you would see a lot more happiness, and the entertaining would still be there, and the fairness would still be there, and we'd get the best of both worlds from the previous format and the current format. And it's a way to evolve, and I would be really happy with it. So hopefully that can be listened to. Obviously, probably not next season. That's not going to happen. But 2022, we could have a completely fresh start with a new car and have this new format and just really ramp up the intensity of the regular season instead of just cruising through the summer months every year. It's like, oh, yada, yada, yada. No, getting the top 10 would be hard. And then getting the final few races, and every race matters there. And you got to compete. You can't get eliminated. You still got to win races, get the bonus points, and you still got to make a lot of points throughout the season to win the championship. I think that's the best of both worlds. And that is it. So, guys, I need water because, Jesus Christ, I've been talking for 47 minutes. Lord have mercy. I will see you guys later. Take care of yourselves. Subscribe if you are new. Comment down below with all your opinions. Please share this video. Share this video. Listen to it before you go to sleep because this is a long one. I don't expect a lot of people to watch this whole thing. And give your opinions. That's all I got. You guys know the exact format I want now. So if anyone asks me how I would do this, watch this video. It's exactly how I would do it. It's not too drastic of a change. And I think it's the best for the sport. So I will see you guys later. Take care of yourselves. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you're not already. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And enjoy the off season. And yeah, peace out.